Now, there we go. All right, I see now that the audio is working. Welcome to High Impact Tuesdays. Today is the day I talk about high impact things that are happening in the world of technology, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. My name is Frank Lavinia, and you can catch me at the following URLs. I'm streaming live from the new house today in the workout room slash kind of pool table room. It's kind of the rec room. It's the basement. And I figured I would go live. Hello, Robin. How are you? How are you this wonderful afternoon? So for those that don't know, I work at Red Hat. I am the global go-to-market lead for data science, data services. And one of the most interesting things that's happening in the world today is how open source has really kind of eaten the world. If you look at all the big data science tools, they're all open source, right? Python, TensorFlow, Spark, all those tools are built on a foundation of open source. And today, going on up in Boston, is the, well, right now my Weimaraner is chewing on one of the pieces of exercise equipment. Hey, no. If I don't use it, you don't get to use it either. But what's interesting is that we had a number of folks in Red Hat leadership kind of talk about how this new normal of IT that we've had because of the pandemic, where people were working in distributed teams, is something that is very common and familiar to open source developers. Open source projects like Linux have had for decades worked with remote distributed teams. That sounds a lot like this new normal that we're facing now. And what's particularly interesting was the idea of unlocking innovation. I myself am a recent convert to the value of open source. I kind of saw it as when it first came out, I thought that's an interesting idea. And then slowly over the years, I've kind of had a change of heart about it, particularly probably around maybe 8 or 9 years ago. I saw that open source was really just improving. The tools were improving. The collaboration between development teams were improving. And the fact that the community builds around it means that the community gets, well, more or less what they want. And I know that's not totally true. They don't always get what they want. But for me, the real aha moment was Silverlight. The demise of Silverlight hit very close to home for me personally, because I devoted a lot of time into learning that platform, which at the time was heads and shoulders above anything that HTML could do. At the time, don't start the flame war. At the time, it was. And what was fascinating to me is how quickly that folks that knew Silverlight went from being rock stars. I wrote a Silverlight book, right? So I put a lot of time into this, but what was fascinating and kind of alarming at the same time was how quickly Silverlight people, Silverlight developers, Silverlight graphic designers went from being rock stars to rocks on the ground looking up at the stars. In other words, the demise of Silverlight was very quick. And some would say you could have seen it coming. Some of us, I guess, could have seen it coming, but we didn't want to see it coming. After you write a book, if you've ever written a book, it's an awesome experience. It's also a terrible experience. It's awesome and awful at the same time. But if you devote your time and your effort and your energy for the better part of a year, and it takes about 10 to 12 months to write a book, technology book at least, you want that technology to succeed. You want that technology to go. And you'll start ignoring kind of these red flags that are there. Let me know if you can kind of relate to that, because that's I think that's not just a technology thing. I think people do that a lot in life. And ultimately, as you can see, my dogs are walking around in the background. And in the background right here, I have the tapestry of dogs playing pool right next to the pool table. And one of the things that I think struck me about open source is the idea that Silverlight's demise, I think, could have been handled better. Let's put it that way. It was done in a very opaque fashion, and it was not transparent. Because open source, the code is available, the discussions tend to be open. That couldn't happen. So as I transitioned into kind of the data science world, no, don't shoot that. Don't shoot. So the Weimaraner puppy, which is a beautiful dog, but wow, this dog is crazy. You want to come here? Want to go on my camera? Come on. Come on, I have to lift you. I have to lift you. I have to lift you. Daddy's on the treadmill desk. No? Okay, then. Let me know in the comments if you want the dogs to appear in the show here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come on. Come on. Come on. Oh. Oh. When we got her, oh, hello. When we got her, she was a tiny little pup. Now she's about 40-something pounds. So you want to say hello and not chew on the furniture? Thank you. All right. So I was going to say squirrel, but if I say that too loud, the dogs go nuts. Anyway, this is High Impact Tuesday. For me personally, I had that kind of change of heart. And when I had that recent issue with my personal laptop and the hard drive kind of going dead, actually, it wasn't really the hard drive. It turns out there's a known problem with that particular type of ThinkPad where the soldering joints kind of give out rather prematurely. It's only a 3-year-old machine. And I thought I could boot kind of Windows off a USB, and it wasn't easy. You can do it. I looked at the instructions. So it's like, you know what? Now I work for Red Hat. Why don't I try Fedora? And I loved it. All the drivers worked. Everything that I thought wouldn't work did work. In fact, only the docking station that I have doesn't work. And I did try, it's a display link. I did try the drivers. I couldn't get that working, but I have another docking station that, actually it's the one I'm on now. Full disclosure, I'm running this PC on Windows, but I plugged it in one day after moving and it magically worked. So ultimately, what I'm saying is that open source has eaten the world, basically. All the innovation, I'm paraphrasing kind of what Paul, the CEO of Red Hat, said. And, open source has definitely eaten the world in terms of how it has changed, how software is developed, not just kind of in the open source world, but it's built these tools that I think really laid the foundation for IT departments. And in general, I also think that information workers or office workers in general can work collaboratively in remote environments. In other words, open source may have not just eaten the world, it may have saved the world in the midst of this pandemic. I know it's a bit over dramatic, but work with me here. The ability for developers to work remotely, to be able to work in disparate parts and teams and different functions, has enabled IT departments to be far more responsive and flexible in the best of times. And in the worst of times, it's allowed them to be agile. The digital transformation of the enterprise was sped up, as Satya Nadella once said, by about 10 years because of the pandemic. And I think a lot of those tools that exist, even if they themselves are not open source tools, they provide a foundation. They rest upon a foundation that was set up by open source developers starting 20 years ago, or in some case 30 years ago. So in other words, open source is here to stay. And I think open source is the default mode of how software is going to be built in the future. And you don't have to look further. Obviously, I mentioned Red Hat, but if you look at what Databricks has done with Spark, right? Spark is still an open source tool. Many Databricks engineers still check in the majority of code on Spark, yet they've been able to productize it. And I think that's how you're going to see the future of software development, both at the enterprise level, community level, and everything in between. So with that, that is High Impact Tuesday. I want to thank you for joining me and putting up with the interruptions that have been brought about by my dogs, and figured I'd stream from a new place today inside the exercise room / billiard room. I think that's a fancier term, right? Billiard. I'll drink my coffee with my pinky up, right? I'll say billiards. This is how you drink coffee when you say pool. This is how you drink coffee when you say billiards, right? Is that how it goes? So with that, if you have any comments or questions, let me know in the comments below. Go to just do your search engine of choice. Check out Red Hat Summit 2022. It's a hybrid event, so it's being done in person up in Boston, and it's also being done online. So go check that out, and you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Frank Diggs Data. And that's all I got. Hope you have a fantastic day, and you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. I almost had to check, like, it is Tuesday, right? All right, I'm going to roll out some fancy graphics. Robin, thanks for stopping by. If you have any questions or whatever, to let me know in the comments on whatever platform you're watching, and I will end the stream. Thank you, and have a good one.